All right, so we're back with Bio 107. Today we're going to be focusing on our lab. And remember, you guys can catch me in my office hours on Tuesdays from 11 to noon via the Zoom call link. So feel free to join in if you have anything you need to discuss or questions regarding anything. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So today on April 21st, we're going to have a few reminders here first. So the first thing is to make sure you're turning in your PowerPoint presentation. So we worked on that last week during lab, or you should have worked on it last week during lab. So you didn't have an actual lab to do last week. So you should have been using that time to work on your PowerPoint presentations, 3 to 5 minutes, get that submitted. If you're having issues submitting that to me, send me an email and we could figure out a way to get that to me. I know there's a lot of moving parts happening here, but hopefully we'll get it figured out sooner rather than later. And then the other thing today that is due is your Module 10 quiz, due by midnight tonight. That's going to be all about what we learned last week during Module 10 on the universe, the astronomical basis for evolutionary biology. So everything that we covered last week in Module 10 will be on that quiz. Remember, it's open book, 20-minute limit, so once you start that up, make sure you finish it within the 20 minutes. Otherwise, I'd have to reset it for you. Okay, so get those two things turned in today. And then we're going to move on to our new assignments that are due 1 week from today. So we're going to have 3 things due 1 week from today. Now, because we had an extra week of spring break, that kind of moved us behind a week. So we're going to do Module 11 and Module 12 this whole week. And so you're going to be quizzed on both of them next week on Tuesday, April 28th. So I will make sure to get all of those lectures up for you and try not to overwhelm you with going beyond the time limit of what our class should encompass. And I'll try to get that all in, everything that you need to know within the lecture time that we normally would have met for. So make sure you take both your Module 11 and Module 12 quiz by midnight on April 28th, so 1 week from today. And then also, we're going to be working on a stickleback lab, the stickleback fish that, if you remember from the Evolving Switches, there's going to be a lab all about that this week. And so that's going to also be due on April 28th as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about the stickleback lab. Luckily, this particular lab is already set up as a virtual lab, so it's already really nice and compact and ready for you guys to take virtually. And so in the real world, we would have gone to the computer lab to do this. So you guys are right where you need to be to take this lab. So let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit more about it. Okay, so this particular lab is very self-explanatory. It is a virtual lab, so once you get into the lab itself, there's a few different tabs, including your lab notebook, introduction tabs that you can click through, and it's virtual and it's complete with diagrams and pictures as you see in this image here. So in your lab document, your Word document itself, it asks you to take the Evolving Switches, to watch the video and take the quiz, but you already did that. So you won't have to do that portion of the lab, but you will have to do everything else that's listed in the lab itself, in the Microsoft Word document. Now that's not the entire lab that's listed here virtually, but we'll talk about which parts you need to do. Okay, so since the lab is a virtual lab, I'm going to provide a website for you. And so that particular website is listed. It'll be on Cobra, it'll be in your email, and it is also on the lab Word document itself. So if you have a hard time finding it, let me know. I checked it before I recorded this lecture and it was working. I was able to go through the lab and it worked really nice for me. And I have somewhat of a spotty internet connection, so hopefully it will work for you wherever you're at. So once you get into the website, you're going to click the Launch Interactive button. It's going to be on the left-hand side of your screen in a purple box. So once you click that Launch Interactive, it will pop up a box and it will look like you're in a bit of a laboratory with an image that has those tabs that we saw just on the previous slide. In order to begin the lab, you're going to either click on the photo of the lab to begin it, or any of the tabs along the top. There's a link that says Begin Lab. So if you click on any of those tabs along the top of your pop-up, then you'll be able to begin the lab that way. Make sure that you've enabled this pop-ups on this particular website, so that way if you have a firewall, it's not blocking it, and that way you'll be able to actually take it and it will pop up correctly for you. And then lastly here, we're going to be following the instructions on the Microsoft Word document. So it's about a 3-page document that will walk you through everything that you need to do. And so I want you guys to make sure that you're answering all the questions also on the first page, second page, third page, whatever questions are there. Don't skim through. I want you to actually go through and read the laboratory itself. I know we only have a few labs left. I think there's 1 or 2 left after this. And so we're closing out the year, and I want you to close out strong. So the parts that the Microsoft Word document is going to ask you to complete include the tutorials. So there's 2 tutorials, tutorial 1 and tutorial 2. And that's going to be a tutorial on scoring a living fish and scoring a fossil fish using the fish from the lakes, the sticklebacks that we talked about, and also the fossil fish sticklebacks as well. And so you're also going to be doing experiment 1, where you're going to be analyzing fish from lakes, so that's living fish, looking at the fins, and then you're going to also be doing experiment 2, which is going to be analyzing fossil fish. So make sure you do all of those parts. Now you're not going to be doing experiment 3, pelvic asymmetry, so don't worry about that. But I've circled on my my image here the sections that you do need to do. And again, follow the instructions on the Microsoft Word document. This is the Microsoft Word document. This is just the first page of it. So like I mentioned, there are about 3 pages. And so it'll walk you through step by step what each part of the virtual lab you actually need to do. And I would like for you to type out your answers in the Microsoft Word document or fill out the table in the Microsoft Word document. That will be easier for me to read. If you must print it out and write it in, that's okay too, but just make sure you write legibly, because sometimes it's hard for me to decipher what the writing is, especially if it's handwritten and there's a photo taken of it. But again, I'm not going to be picky on how I receive it as long as I receive it. So make sure you get that turned in. So, but anyway, fill out the Microsoft Word document and submit it either via email or via Dropbox. So those are your 2 options of submitting. And then you can submit it under Lab 11 or the Stickleback Lab. And so that's where you can put it. So very self-explanatory lab. A lot of it's just clicking through and doing the tutorials and just looking at the experiments. So hopefully it's easy for you guys to get through, depending on your internet access and if you have any firewalls. But if you do have any questions, please reach out to me. You're more than welcome to email me or stop in my my office hours Zoom call. So, all right, well that is it. It's hopefully pretty easy, and we're looking forward to the end of the year. So we're almost done here. So make sure you guys get that turned in, and I will be back with you here shortly.